let's talk about Elizabeth Erin Design.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more.
Sure. So the first question people have usually is, if my name is Jodi Peterman, where did Elizabeth Erin Designs come from? Is it a franchise or something? And I'm like, no, I was literally trying to come up with the name of the company. And I had two little girls that were 3 at the time. I had just taken the company over from my co-person that was working with me, my business partner, I guess you would say. And the girls are driving me crazy. And I needed to come up with a name. And I said, Hannah, Elizabeth, and Sydney Erin, stop. Because they were just, being normal 3-year-olds. And I was like, Elizabeth Erin Designs. I think that'll work. So that's how we came up with the name.
I love it. And it's beautiful. It has a ring to it. And it's so funny. I'm just going to disclose in transparency. I was reading it and I was like, who am I meeting with? And then I was like, oh, I get it. But it's beautiful and it has a ring to it. So
Thank
that
you.
was definitely heaven sent. So what does Elizabeth Erin Designs do?
So we are a nationwide interior design company, full service. So we do a lot of what we do across the nation is multifamily projects. We'll go in and take like a D or C class multifamily project and get it to an A or a B. We also do brand new reconstruction multifamily, and we just finished up a spa. We also do residential remodels and new construction as well. You kind of have to be good in being able, pivoting is one of my things. So you have to be able to pivot in this game, because 2024 was a show of all shows. And a lot of people weren't investing in those multifamily properties. So if we had all of our eggs in that basket, we probably would have been cooked. But because we have the other facet, we were able to keep everything going by doing the remodels, because a lot of people didn't want to sell their home and move to a new space where they'd have to pay higher interest rates. They just wanted to invest their money and into their home and make it the way they want it.
Wow. So commercial, residential, and new homes. Wow.
We do new construction on multifamilies in Des Moines, Iowa. I don't even know. I lost track after 10 new construction projects, multifamily. We handle everything from working with the client when we're just looking at the architecture plans, all the way up until, they give me a $500,000 budget to go buy pool furniture, all the furnishings, all of that stuff. And then we take care of the installation, the ordering and procurement and all of that.
Wow. Wow. When did you get started? I'm blown away. So
yeah, so I had a business partner, and then in 2003, I decided to take over the company. She wanted to go in a different direction. So I just decided it was the pivotal point. Do I take this over, or do I just go find a 9-to-5 job and work for somebody? And I had two little girls that I needed to take care of. So I was like, I think I'm going to try and make this work. This is what feels right. So I started, just took the company over and came up with that name. And then, so that was in New Jersey at the time. And then 9/11 happened, and we're kind of just going through trying to get our lives back together after being in New Jersey during 9/11 and seeing everything that happened. My brothers ended up being in the National Guard in Iowa, and they got called up. So I told my husband, I'm like, maybe we should think about moving back there. And it took us a little bit, but then in 2007, we made the decision. In 2009, I think we found land and we started to build our own home in Iowa. And it was a horrific process. And we moved there. It was gut-wrenching. It made me become the worst version of myself. It completely changed me. It changed changed me because it changed how I do business as my company. I decided that there had to be a better way of doing this. And when I was talking to my lawyer, because it got that bad. She said, well, why? Because I said, we've got to change this. Like, it shouldn't be this way. There's a very simple fix. And here's what I think we should do. And she's like, 40% of lawyer businesses in this area comes from disputes with homeowners and contractors. Nobody's going to help you. Oh, wow. And I decided that I was just going to try and change it by myself. Like, what could I do? Like, if you look at the problems as a whole, if you look at the problems of the entire world, it's like a huge elephant that you can't eat. It's like, where can you start small
Yeah.
and like local. So I'm like, what can I do to help? And so I came up with, okay, I backtracked through my project, like what would have made this project better? What would have made this a better experience for me? How could I have done due diligence and found, a better contractor and things like that? So I kind of like I reverse engineered, I guess is the best way to do it. And then came up with this process. And and then I've been doing it, but everybody's like, your process it's not brain surgery. And that's what I say. It's not brain surgery, but it is unique because not very many people are doing it. And so they're like, you need to term it. So I'm like, okay. So I came up with the EED process, the Insured Ease Design Process, playing off EE and Elizabeth Erin Designs, just changing the thing. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm doing it and I'm showing my clients, but like, yeah, you're doing it and you're showing your clients, but how can you get this out there? Like, how can you make it an even bigger impact on it? And so now I've started my podcast, my whole business model has changed around it. And yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you have, and rightfully so. It's been 21 years, right?
Yeah, I'll be, yep, 22 and January 3rd this coming year.
Wow. So, I mean, you've had that experience and you've had that time to be able to adjust. And it's so funny. We have land and we're soon to build in probably the next 5 years. And I was like, oh no, she has something to say. But
Oh
there's a
yeah.
plan for it. When you created this and you began this, please tell me about your vision.
My vision was really working with the clients. I couldn't articulate it back then because, it has to evolve. But right now, as I'm sitting back and looking back on it, I just wanted to be the bridge between contractor and client. I thought that there was a better way to communicate because the contractors do these things all day long. And generally speaking, most of the contractors are male. So, they've got a certain set of, God made them, their brains one way, and it doesn't always communicate to women who are kind of put in charge of the house building. I mean, a lot more husbands are getting involved, obviously, with they want it to function. The women want it to look pretty. So the function part comes first and the looking pretty comes later. And the main issue is, and I know I'm going away from this will tie back to my vision, but the main issue is that contractors want clients to work off of allowances. So you're building a home. The first thing they tell you to do is go pick your appliances. Here's your allowance. Well, your allowance is $5,000, but the appliances you want are 19. All right, you're over. There's money in the budget to go over a little bit. You're fine. Then you sign off on it and they get those ordered. And now you're going to look at cabinets and work with the cabinet side. You're picking things one at a time as the contractor needs it, not seeing it completed as a whole. And you're working off of allowances. So as you go over and over and over to get the function part done, by the time it comes to light fixtures, plumbing, your furniture, your window treatments, nobody thinks about putting that in the budget.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're coming to the middle of your project and now you're way over budget. And now to cancel anything that you've ordered, for example, one of my clients ended up doing this glaze that she loved on every one of her cabinets. And it was probably an extra $35,000 to do this glaze. Had she known she couldn't get the light fixtures and the plumbing fixtures that she wanted, she wouldn't have gone over because she was on a decent budget, but it was over and it was very frustrating for her. So I feel like I've always seen myself as bridging the gap of communication between the client who doesn't do this every day and the contractor does, and being an advocate for both, because I can explain to the contractor in terms that they can understand what the client's feeling and going through. And I can explain to the client what the contractor's doing and why they're doing it that way, where it makes sense to the client.
Yeah. And
I
bridging
like
that gap.
Superhero powers.
Yes. And bridging that gap makes all the sense in the world because you have the language of a contractor, but you also have not in a negative way, but the human language to actually have that discussion with your client, to share with them what it means, right? Because of course, at that point, money is it's a big deal,
Well, yeah, because 80% of all projects, new construction or remodel, go over budget by 22%. That's a lot of money on a new construction home. If you're talking like a $700,000 or $800,000 or $1 million house, that 20% is a lot.
Yeah.
And the problem is working off of allowances. So the other way, besides being the bridge of gap of communication, that's a vision I have. The other thing is to actually bring that vision to life, to show people all the things that we're selecting before they even dig a hole in the ground. My whole thing is everything has to be designed, I's dotted, T's crossed, every product selected, the grout color, all the things need to be done.
Mhm.
And we do it the way the client wants it, knowing that we're going to be over budget, because what people see on Pinterest and Instagram is going to take them over budget. But I tell them, let's just get it basic design the way you want it, and then we'll value engineer it. Not cut it all out, but by the time we get through the 2 rounds of edits, we make documents that the client or the contractors then get. The contractor takes and gets bid on actual things that the people want, because what's important to you might not be important to Jim, or what's important to Jim might not be important to you. You might not care if you don't have the most beautiful chandelier or whatever. You really want geothermal in your house. So you want to put more money in the function. So it all weighs, and there's this one pot of money, but we can move that pot of money and redistribute it in different ways. So if we have the whole design up front and we think about all the things and we tell you how much it's going to cost to do that and break it all down with the contractor, then the contractor and my design team gets together and says, okay, the budget's 400,000 for this remodel, and right now we're at 475. What are some ways we see that we can value engineer this? Okay, they don't have to go ahead and get the new HVA system. They could do a mini split in the new addition, and we could save money that way. We could not fully tile these beautiful 2 guest bathrooms that nobody's going to use. We'll do their primary bathroom because that's the one that's going to get used, but the other one, let's just do some fiberglass. That'll save them 30,000. So we come up with ideas because we're working as a team, and then we meet with the client and say, okay, client, here's where your budget was, here's where we came in at, and here's where we think we can get you closer to your budgets. We can't get you all the way to 400 with your vision, but we can get you to like 425. Is that okay? And some people are like, I just love it the way I want it. I'm going to figure out how to get the extra 75,000. And other people are like, no, let's cut back as far as we can. And then maybe they'll go so far as one of my clients and say, okay, our budget was 300,000 and what we want is 500,000 with everything involved. Let's break it into 2 phases. Let's do the first phase before we sell our home, and then let's work on, once the home sells, then we can work on phase 2 when we break it down together as a team as to what makes sense with the least amount of like angst or inconvenience to the client to have people come back and do stuff while you're living there, if that makes sense. So that's kind of like my vision, and our whole tagline is achieve your vision, and that's how we achieve your vision, by being part of the team.
Yeah. And it takes a person-centered individual such as yourself, Jodi, to be able to do that and to have that conversation, because people want what they want when they want. Interesting enough is I'm a full-time real estate agent. So you're speaking the language that I hear very often. But again, people want what they want, right? And it's up to you, as it has been in my field, is to make sure they get that in a budget that fits them. So you're right, achieving their goals, but having it make sense in the knowledge and in the money.
Exactly. Well, that's why you can say like this, like I'm working on this little cabana right now, and we did this beautiful tile, and I'm like, you can take the tile accent wall off. It's 6,900, but you're going to want something there. We either need an accent paint color, or you need wallpaper and an artwork. And so if you take off the tile, you'll save about $2,000. So is it worth to take the tile off because it does such a wow factor? Is there something else we can remove so that you can keep that tile wall? But until you have numbers and until you have a design, you have no idea.
Yeah.
One of my clients, we were doing a show home one year, and they had a 22-foot wall, and we did this beautiful 3D textured geotile all the way up and down as you're going down the stairwell. It was beautiful. And then another thing that we gave them, an option we gave them, was we don't have to do the tile. What if we did this trim accent wall? It would have saved them like $6,000 or $7,000. And they're like, no, we really like the tile. But they were able to make those decisions. And so we cut back in some other places so that they're putting their money where they want to put it and what makes sense to them and what they really gravitated towards.
Yes, yes. Makes all the sense in the world. You sound so passionate, like you have a passion in this. And yes, anyone that's in business for as long as you've been, there is a passion.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get started? I understand 2003, but where did this love come from?
Since I was a little girl. I mean, I know a lot of people say that, but I was literally 7 years old. I remember, I don't know, some family event, but all my family was gathered in the kitchen with my grandparents and everything. And I said, I'm going to go to Iowa State University and I'm going to graduate and I'm going to go to design and I'm going to go to New York City. And they're like, haha, whatever. I was on a farm in Iowa. Like I literally lived little house in the prairie. I had got up at like 5:30 in the morning to go get the bucket calves fed before I got on the school bus. So I'm like literally grounded, but I can put on a ball gown and heels and go. I think that's another unique thing about me. So it kind of got started back then. My grandma, Charlotte, was a beautiful seamstress, and she had her own company called Rich Chardon Designs. And she made clothes for people. She was a seamstress and she taught me how to sew. And of course, I had my Barbie house that they had, I think, an Amish person make, and it was all wood and there was nothing in there. And I was like, well, this is beautiful, but it's boring. I was constantly like cutting up scraps of fabric and taping them to the walls as wallpaper, cutting different, that look like bedding and different things like that. So I've always been very creative in a very family that's a little creative, but more so like, we don't leave Iowa type of thing.
Right.
We don't like stand out.
And you did exactly what you set out to do. And
I did. I graduated from Iowa State University. I went to New York City. I did an internship there. Like I'm like checking all the boxes.
Yes. And that's determination.
It's an inner knowing, I guess. It's just don't fight it. Just be led where you're led,
Yeah. And when you talk about your vision and how long you've been in this business, I definitely want to know what was your most significant learning experience.
Oh my gosh. It would have to be pivoting and trusting myself. Right? You have to be able to pivot. I mean, I went through a move from New Jersey where women would go upstairs and hand me $80,000 to do one room. Then they'd put part payment on a credit card and then they'd give me a check. I called it the husband payment plan. So I'm like, they're spending $100 and some $1,000s on one room. So I went from a situation like that to like, are we really moving to Iowa? Because I was out of Iowa longer than I was ever in Iowa. And yes, it was Des Moines. But I'm like, okay, like, I guess they're building a new Walmart by my house. So that's my backup plan. Like, I can always go work at Walmart. Like, how am I going to take what I know about design and what I started this business in New Jersey and translate it into Iowa, where women are strong, they bake their own bread, they have their babies by the tree, like they don't need help from anybody. Like that's what I knew of Iowa. And far from the case. Des Moines, Iowa is probably one of the most hidden, best kept secrets. And even though I'm in Florida and the weather's amazing, I miss Des Moines. I came back this fall and my heart was aching for it. It's just so beautiful with the bike trails and everything else. Not so much now that they have snow on the ground, but
Right.
it is a very cool place. So yeah. So just pivoting. I had to pivot there. I had to pivot when I got a new person. I had to pivot when I hired my first employee because that meant relinquishing control, which is not easy for a type A person who's had to control everything. I pivoted during when we got our new storefront. We grew so fast. We're all working out of my house, which was insanity. I cannot believe it lasted as long as it did until I trusted myself enough to pull the trigger and get a storefront. And I had that. Then COVID happened and I had 14 employees, and 14 women in one space is quite a lot of hormones. And so that was a learning experience. Don't grow too fast, too fast. So then we pivoted down and now we're at a nice, even beautiful 7, and we're nationwide because COVID taught me that, I can trust and we will get work done and we will make it work. Like just trust the process a little bit and trust where you're led, and don't be fear-based. Anything done out of fear is just going to hold you back. Like just listen to your heart, pivot and move forward.
And thank you so much for saying that, Jodi. It's not easy. I tell everybody entrepreneurship, having a business of your own isn't easy. As you stated before, you acquired this business from a business partner that wanted to go separate ways. However, you decided to keep going, and now look at where you are, and
Yeah.
and we know, and I'm sure it hasn't been always been easy. It could not have always been easy.
No, but you know what? I was getting in my own way. It was all me. I mean, like the spiritual journey that I have been on, I can totally see I was getting in my own way and I was leading with fear instead of being like, what literally it took me like just 3 years ago. I was like, okay, we moved to Florida and I felt like God wanted us to be like, I was supposed to be in Florida. Like everything just worked out. There was no fighting it. It just happened. It was beautiful. And I'm like, okay, this is where we're supposed to be, but what's happening? Why is there no why is there no business? Why is this not happening? What am I not doing? Like, I don't get it.
Mhm.
And then everything just had to slow down so that I could focus on myself and get myself to be a better employer, to be a better business owner, to be a better everything. So I have a feeling 2025 is going to be pretty amazing.
I am super stoked. As I mentioned before, I was super excited to come on to talk to you about it because reading everything, one of the biggest things about Vision Pros Live and how I co host is truly understanding the person behind the website. And I tell you, you marry the two. you,
Aw.
you marry the two. And Jodi, for what it's worth, I'm super proud of you.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
so
Oh, you're making me cry. Oh my gosh, that's so sweet.
I'm proud of how far you've come. I mean, you've made it through some situations that most people didn't. It could either make you or break you, and it didn't break you. It only enhanced you. And in 2020, you became nationwide, and
Mhm.
now you have moved from state to state, but you still have this joy and this love for this passionate design, and you're expanding. Super proud of you. And I
Thank you
cannot
so
wait to see where this goes.
I'm super excited as well.
Yes, yes. So 2025, that's your
Mhm.
year, Jodi.
I
It's your
feel like it's all like, you know how you have missing pieces of the puzzle and you're like, I just want to put this puzzle together.
yeah.
I did a spiritual retreat just like a few weeks ago. I went to Costa Rica and like I feel like I'm figuring out like it's being revealed the missing pieces so that I can put the puzzle together to be whole.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a vision pro yourself.